A very good evening to you and welcome to Big Talk here on Global Television. Coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. And of course, we can call this the Democracy edition of a Big Talk today. And joining me to talk about Democracy Day this evening is Dr. Imeyak Ubong. You're welcome to Big Talk, Doctor.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Doctor, let's even get to, we'll say congratulations to you first as a Nigerian and then to also for celebrating the Democracy Day. But generally, to you as a person, what does the Democracy Day mean to you as a person, then by extension to Nigeria?
Well, thank you for the question. First of all, let me congratulate Nigerians for this day and also for an unfettered 26 years of democracy that's uninterrupted. Today is significant in the life of Nigeria and Nigerians because it reminds us of June 12th. That was 1995, thereabouts, I can't remember exactly, when an election that was adjudged to be the freest in the country was annulled. And Nigerians, came out in their numbers to protest because they appreciate what democracy is. And for somebody to have won that election that was the freest in the country, very fair and transparent, and then that election was annulled. So Nigerians were not happy with that incident. And they really protested because they understood the significance and they appreciate democracy. So today is significant in the sense that Nigeria is now a democratic country, having gone through this process for the past 26 years uninterrupted. And Nigerians have shown a lot of resilience, that goes with this process. It is not just a one-stop process. It is something that is ongoing for us to attain that utopian level that we need, and certainly we'll get there one day, very soon.
Well, Doctor, let's even look at this whole conversation around the June 12th. There is now more of a confusion between June 12th as a Democracy Day and May 29. But in your own angle, which one do you think is more symbolic for Nigeria in terms of based on its history and development? Should we be talking about June 12th, or we should rather even stick to the May 29, which we stood for, and that marked the Fourth Republic for Nigeria?
Yeah, 29th of May is just a day chosen, for the one regime to succeed, another regime, or for another regime to go for a second term, the same regime to go for a second term. But it's not historic compared to June 12th. June 12th was more or less, June 12th, I think 1993, was more or less a watershed in the history of this country, as far as our democratic experience is concerned. So it is more historic. I think it was on that premise that the immediate past president of this country, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, decided that June 12th should be celebrated in its true sense as Democracy Day, as against May 29th, which is just a handing over date.
Quite interesting. But Prof, at this point, when we look at the June 12th antecedent that saw MKO Abiola's election annulled, like you've rightly said, looking at all of this and where we are right now as a people, can we say as a people that we are practicing democracy as it was in 1993 when Nigerians came out en masse to support a candidate of their choice? We saw what happened between MKO Abiola and Tofa it wasn't a case of the North or the South. It was a case of Nigerians speaking with one voice. Or looking at the current democratic system, are we practicing democracy at all?
Yes, we are practicing democracy. Like I pointed out earlier, democracy or the democratic process is not just a one-stop thing. You know, it's a continuous process, trying to attain the ideal. So it needs time to adjust, you know, and have reforms here and there that will take us to that El Dorado that we all desire. Yes, in 1993, the umpire, who I'm so happy has been honored today, Professor Humphrey Nwosu, did a very good job. Okay? Despite all the threats, he did a good job and conducted that process, that election, in the true sense of what we should look at as an election. Thereafter, there have been series of events that occurred in between, and we are still trying to fine-tune to get to that level and probably surpass that level. What Humphrey Nwosu did was not 100%, but he did the best under the situation. I don't know if you understand me. So what we are aiming at now, because that's why we have series of reforms in the electoral process. The National Assembly coming up with bills, trying to reform the process so that we can achieve the desired, level that we need. So I cannot say that all the elections conducted so far, is exactly, what happened in 1993. But I can see some level of improvement with the passage of every, electoral cycle. There's improvement. They are introducing technology in it, and with the advent of technology, I can assure you that we are going to have something much more better. If you look at the result of elections conducted recently, compared to what happened during maybe Obasanjo's time, second term, then Jonathan's time, you can see that there's some level of improvement. So I want to tell you that we will achieve it, not necessarily 100%, but we'll get to somewhere that will be far better than even what we had in 1993 under Humphrey Nwosu.
Well, Doctor, let's even look at the electoral integrity of the recent elections that we have across the country right now, where to some persons they will say elections are being marred with a lot of irregularities. Elections are not free and not fair, and they are not credible compared to what we have in 1993. If we run an integrity test on our elections so far from 1999 till date, using that as a litmus test for our democratical conversations, can we say that the current dispensation of the Fourth Republic has been able to uphold integrity when it has to do with election? We've had cases of most governors, most states will say we have Supreme Court governors in our state, and the court has become like a normal parlance, which a normal place where politicians will say, if you are aggrieved, go to the court and go and get justice. But when we look at all of this in terms of integrity in our current dispensation, Fourth Republic, can we say that we've been able to incorporate integrity to a very large extent compared to what we have in 1993, June 12?
Okay. Well, let us look at this. In 1993, we had a two-party system, the NRC and the SDP. It was an easier thing, easier process to manage because we're dealing with two parties. Subsequently, we had proliferation of parties. I think there was a time we had up to 18 or 20-something parties. And it becomes very difficult to manage such process. The last series of elections, I think, featured about, 6 or 7 or so political parties. You have the APC, PDP, Labour, YPP, NNPP, and all that. So it becomes a bit more difficult. Now, having said that, election conducted under a military dispensation, with the military fiat and so on, is very likely to be more transparent than that under pure civilian regime, because there are a lot of political intrigues in that. Okay? So I cannot, for all amount of certainty, say that the integrity of the series of elections conducted recently compared to that of Nigeria, that it is at the same level. No, it is not. But then, given the situation that we found ourselves, it is always better to resolve whatever problem we have through legal means, constitutional means. Because if you remember what happened in the Western region, the Wete, phenomenon that led to the civil war eventually, we should try and avoid such a scenario. And that is why it is absolutely necessary that we have to arrive at this matter, at the court level. If not, people will take laws into their hands. So if you are not satisfied with the process, because the election is not just a one-stop process, it's a series of these processes. Starts from registration, voting, and all that. So it ends, the electoral law has that provision that it will end in the court, if need be. So, but the process, what we should concern ourselves with is how to strengthen that institution, the judiciary, so that whatever verdict comes out of it, everybody will be happy with it. It's not only in Nigeria, even in the most democratic system like America. You remember the, what do you call him, this Trump case, They went to court when he was president and somebody defeated him, I think, and so on and so forth. So it's not that it is out of the way that we should get to court, but the thing is that we should try not to allow politics to influence the judgment of the court. And that is what I mean by strengthening the judiciary institution. So that is it. So, but for now, I don't think anybody can beat his chest and say we have 100%. But we are working towards that. And I can assure you that by the grace of God, we'll get there.
All right, by the grace of God, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Of course, Doc have said by the grace of God.
Yes.
Which has been a Nigerian factor. We rely on God almost for...
Certainly, we cannot do without God. God is the one that gives us the leaders. As a Christian, I believe, he says, any leader that you find is from God. So God will guide and direct them. You can see what the president is doing, his reforms. If we didn't have somebody like him, I don't know what would have happened in this country now. But with him, since it was God that brought him, despite all the obstacles on his way, he still surmounted them to become the president. So it means he was destined.
The way Dr. Upong is speaking right now is as if he believes so much even in President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
No, not necessarily. I don't. No, you see, if you look at my background, I've been in the labor union. I was chairman of ASU, and I'm activist. We don't sing praises unnecessarily. But at the same time, when you see the truth, you must say this is the truth. I have looked at the series. I participated in politics for a long time. It's right from, I was in PRP because I'm a leftist. So, PRP, SDP, and all that. I've looked at all the presidents that we produced. I'm not saying because of anything. I'm not saying to please anybody. But I can see that this man has that political will to get this country out of the woods. He might not achieve everything, but he's doing a lot to see that, the country moves forward. That is why I believe that it was God that brought him. Because I know the obstacles he went through, and he surmounted them to become the president.
All right, Prof, let's look at this all June 12th and its the rhetorics that surrounds June 12th. First, we understand again that by the Atlantic Charter and the Magna Carta of 1215, which gives rights to the fundamental human rights, we have a right to expressions based on the Section 39 of the Nigerian Constitution. Freedom of expression, of course, Prof. And Doctor have already said that he's an activist, so we can now look at it from this light. But in recent times, we've seen, or let's even take it back historically, we've seen activists, the likes of Gani Fawemi and the rest of them, protest even at the June 12th. We even saw President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, our president, was even exiled, went on self-exiled or by the government, whatever way, but he was exiled.
He was a frontliner in that struggle.
He was out of the country and he had to leave the shores of the country
Yes.
because he didn't believe the fact that the election was not free and fair, and it was of course challenging the military government as at that time. But in recent time, we've seen that whenever there is a protest, the government try to clamp down on protesters. When we look at that, does it mean that our nascent democracy is trying to shut down the whole process of freedom of speech, especially within and around young people, knowing fully well that young people champion the cause of the June 12th that we are celebrating today?
Well, I would not key into that narrative because I don't believe this government has clamped down on protesters. But where you are the number one citizen and the chief security officer of the nation, and the security of the country is threatened, you cannot sit down and fold your arms. That doesn't mean that you want to either gag the press or, stop protesters. I've seen protesters on the street, even in Abuja here. What was that? There was a certain issue that we had, and there were protests. Even in Akwa Ibom, where I come from, we had other people. Nobody stopped them. Rather, what they did, because they were afraid that it could be hijacked, some hoodlums could hijack the process, they had to ask policemen, security men, to provide a security cover for them, so that nobody will harm them or take unnecessary advantage of that situation to go and burn down government properties and so on. So that they will say that it was the protesters that did it, whereas actually it wasn't. It was maybe overtaken by hoodlums. So that is what I think the present regime has done. But I have not seen a situation where this present regime has come against protesters to stop them from protesting. I don't think so.
But Doc,
unless you have any specific case, a case study.
The end bad governance.
Yes. What happened
from the end bad governance?
Yes. At what point did government come in to stop them?
Canisters being even thrown here in Abuja.
No. No, canisters could be thrown when the protesters go haywire. Not live bullets. Because if you don't do that, some people, like I said, could take advantage of that to cause problem and destroy. The people also had some other ulterior motive. There were people who also sponsored behind the scene that will not come out. Okay? And you cannot sit down and see your house burn like that. Your children could come and tell you that I don't like this, I don't like, but by the time you see that they want to destroy the house or they want to go and break the television, you say because they have freedom of expression, they should go and break television. At the end of the day, you are the one that will still spend money to go and buy another one. No. I think that's what the government has been doing. Not necessarily stopping them from protesting. If you go on peaceful demonstration and mature in a very mature and responsible way, properly conducted, no government here, not this present government, they will not stop you. As far as I know, they won't.
All right, Doc, it will be complete for us to talk about Democracy Day without even talking about the various institutions that forms the government, taking it from the judiciary, the legislature, and also the executive. Before we even get to the tiers of the government, from the locals to the federal and down to the state, we'll begin to talk about, let's take it from the institutions of government. When we look at the judiciary, the executive, and also the legislature at the moment, in your own assessment, looking at our nascent democratic journey, how will you assess these institutions so far? Have they been independent? Have they been politicized, or have they been carrying out their duties effectively and efficiently?
Well, to a large extent, I can see that they've enjoyed, their independence. But you see, at times, functions, they're interlarding functions, And when you say government, it is not only, what people don't know, they believe it's only executive that is government. The government consists of the executive arm, the legislature, and the judiciary, just like you rightly pointed out. And they have to work in tandem, to get the masses to benefit in the interest of the country. So people expect that when you go as a legislator, what you are expected to do is to go and fight the executive. No, it is not so. At the same time, it does not mean that whatever the executive brings to the table, that you must accept as a legislator. You look at it, do a thorough analysis, and see of what benefit it will be to the people. If it is in tandem or if it is in conformity with your own belief, why must you go and fight? So if the president has been able to bring up proposals or policies and programs that are in tune with the thinking of the legislature, why must they fight? That was what the Senate president said. You don't expect them to wear gloves, boxing gloves, to go and fight. That's not what they went to National Assembly to do. They are to complement each other so that this country can move forward. The same thing with the judiciary. Judiciary cannot unnecessarily, bring some judgment that will be frustrating the government. But that is not to say that they will deny the ordinary citizen their own rights. There must be justice, and justice must be seen to be done and the right way. But let me say this: none of the systems so far are the institution that I can score 100%, because all this depend on the leadership. Once the head is okay, then the body. But once the head is not okay, for some number of years, we've not had a very good leadership in this country. We've not. And because of that, there were a lot of rot in the system. In fact, at a point, the country almost became comatose. The system almost became comatose. But I see some reforms trying to reposition the country, reorientate our thinking, our psyche towards what we desire. And it's not something we can do in one day. It is not possible, sir. It takes time. Before you build this house, you conceptualize, you plan how you get the money to build this house. But they can destroy this house in one day, but you cannot build this house in one day. I don't even understand. Yeah. So there's been a lot of destruction in our virtues, our values, and so on. So to bring and build it up is not something that you expect somebody to do in 2 years. And that is the mistake that most Nigerians are making. That President Tinubu should be able to put Nigeria, should be able to re-engineer, to be able to do this within 2 years. I don't believe in that. I believe that he has to take time, plan, execute. We have the short term, we have middle term, we have the long term. He would not even stay up to do some of those things. Even if he stays for 8 years, which I believe he will stay. Okay? Some other person will come. That is for the process of continuity and continue from his good works. But if there were things I didn't do right, the person can jettison that and do another good thing. Well, so it's not a one-day thing.
Well, Doc said he believed that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will stay for 8 years. Well, we can't authoritatively say that on this table, but that's your belief.
No. I'm saying, going by what he's doing, it is possible that he could stay for 2 years. I'm not God to decide, but I know, for me, if you ask me my own judgment, given his trajectory in government so far, in terms of the security of the country, in terms of the economy, and so on, and educational and all that, I don't know what Nigerians will want.
Well, Dr. Ukpong, let's look at this whole democracy right now. In Nigeria, when we go and sample opinions on the street, it tends to be that democracy is about President Bola Ahmed. Democracy Day is about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and not a day for Nigerians to celebrate. Various state governments have nothing to celebrate. When we look at all of these, local governments, even at the third tier of government, which is supposed to be the government that is closer to the grassroots, are not celebrating. Are we missing it at any point, even talking about our democratical evolution in Nigeria? Why are states, local governments not celebrating? Rather, we are all focusing and waiting for the presidential speech, waiting for the president to make a move and call for the parade. The president today did not call for parade. We didn't see any states follow suit. We didn't see the state governors even say they want to organize more of a media chat or a media party to engage the citizen on the dividends of democracy. Are the state and local government shy from even talking about democracy as it stands right now in Nigeria?
Well, I wouldn't be in a position to say much about the various states and the local governments, because I've not had time to look at, either the online publications or the normal tabloids and newspapers to know what has happened in some of, or what have happened in some of the states or local government. But President Bola Tinubu introduced a new twist in celebrating Democracy Day. For the first time, he took it to National Assembly. The two houses met. There was a joint session of both the House of Reps and Senate, and the president was there to make his speech. I listened to the Senate president, I listened to the speaker.
Although they exempted the judiciary.
Well, yes.
They exempted the judiciary.
Normally,
we'll not get to that conversation.
No problem. But they made, in fact, very superlative, all what they said and what they know. So the National Assembly is a representation of the entire country, because all the constituencies at the federal constituency level, at the senatorial level, are represented there in that hallowed chamber. So whatever the president must have said, whatever reaction must have come from the legislators, is on behalf of the entire country. But having said that, I want to agree with you that just like in terms of project implementation, or achievements, everybody is looking at Tinubu. The national and the president at the national level, federal level, will send money to the various states. Some states have agreed, they have said it openly, that the allocation they are receiving now is 10 times more than what they used to receive. And the citizens at the state level will not call them to question, what are you using this money for? Everybody seems to be directing attention at the federal government. That is the problem. So we should be able to go back and tell the people at the local government level, the people at the subnationals, at the state level, for their citizens to interrogate the government, find out what they are using this amount of money, amount of money to do. I cannot answer for the state. I can maybe speak a little on behalf of Akwa Ibom State. So, like I said, when I was interviewed by one newspaper, the governor was formerly PDP. He has now formally declared, for APC. It is the party that is the engine room of all the government. Party generates the policies for the government within their own platform. So whatever His Excellency Pastor Moino was doing in Akwa Ibom was based on the script written by PDP, which was not satisfactory to somebody like me. But he has now come to APC. It's now in APC. Okay? So going by the footsteps of what the leader of APC, President Tinubu, I believe is going to key into that. And I want to believe that he has done something, but he's going to do much more, because he's now going to follow his leader, who is President Tinubu. And that is what I have observed in most APC states. They seem to be doing quite well compared to some other political states controlled by some other political parties.
Doctor, let's look at this all. You've talked about the state governor, especially Akwa Ibom State, where you are an authority in that state.
Not an authority, I'm a citizen.
You are. What it has to do with Akwa Ibom, we know we can say for a fact that you are not just a principality in the state. You speak from a position of authority because you are more resident in Akwa Ibom State.
Fine,
to give us perspectives and the angles to the conversation. But then, 774 local governments in Nigeria, the narratives and conversations around local government not delivering on the mandate, even a democratic mandate, is still rising by the day. We are celebrating today as June 12th, Democracy Day. I'm asking, has the democracy not trickled down to local government? Have we not been able to interpret what democracy should be, even at local government level? People don't even know who their ward councillors are. People don't know who their local government chairmen are. Is it a deliberate attempt by politicians to make this whole process to stay within the two cadre of the two tiers of government, between the state and the federal government? I'm just curious. Of course, you.
I understand. I understand your curiosity, and it's very, very well placed. Incidentally, I happen to have been a local government chairman, but it was under the military, under late General Abacha. We were having free hands, sort of, even though templates, they were setting templates for us to follow. But you manage your resources, or whatever allocation, whether it was 1 million, will come to the local government. But in the immediate past years, local government chairmen or councils were not getting their money. The thing was managed by the governors of the various states, and they would just give, they would even tell them, just pay salary, do this, and that's all. That we are the ones that will implement projects, will come and do it. They will now pool the resources from all the local governments and use it. The state government will now go and do certain projects and will claim that it's the state government, whereas they are using local government funds to do some of those projects that they claim that was done by the state government. So the local government were not given, local government administration was not given free hand to run. I cannot blame them that much. But with what the current president has done, which has partially granted autonomy to the local government, at least financial autonomy, if not administrative, because I don't understand why you will grant financial autonomy through the court, Supreme Court, and by implication, it does not affect the administrative autonomy, because by now, local government should be completely autonomous, completely, both financial and administrative, but they are still tied to the promising of the state government. And the state government, they have so many ways, because most of these local government chairmen, I want to admit the fact, most of them were handpicked. They did not go through electoral process. That's why they are answerable to the person who put them there. So they manipulate, despite the fact that they say if the governor should touch their money, they will do this. It's not true. So I still want to believe that most state governments are not still giving them free hands to run. That's why they are groping in the dark. But even granted the fact that they're even giving free hands, they're just coming out of that shell because they were really gagged. So we need some time, to see them perform. And we also, the citizens, we also have to, push. We cannot sit down. For example, let me say 200 million is coming to my local government every month. And I will not go and find out what is happening with that 200 million. Everybody will keep quiet. So the citizens should be engaged in the process at the various levels, even at the state level too. Everybody seems to be interested only at the federal level. They seem to forget about the state and the local government. So we are the ones, to put them on their toes. We are the ones to prompt them to do what they are supposed to do. And if we don't do that, we have ourselves to blame.
All right. Doc, let's look at this whole June 12th as it is. A lot of lessons to learn, but then we focus more in even discussing about the MKO Abiola saga. But we tend to turn a blind eyes on the lesson. But you practically was involved even in the June 12th, and you were there, you saw what played out. Are there lessons for us to even deduce from the June 12th that we can apply to our nascent democracy as it stands right now to evolve and help the system to grow? Yes,
exactly. Like you said initially when we started this, Nigerians voted across ethnic lines, across religious lines. It wasn't something that this one is from the north, this one. Even in, I think, Kano, if I could recall.
Yeah.
Where
Tofa is from.
Yes, yeah. It's from. Abiola won election. I can't remember whether I won in Tofa's unit, but I remember I won election in Kano, and so on and so forth. Not minding whether I was a Yoruba man or so. People voted because of whom they believe Abiola, was, and what they thought he would come and do for the country. It was not because of religion or so. So that is one lesson from that June 12th. Then two, Nigerians also showed that they could, or they know what is right, and they know how to fight for their rights. Because it was that June 12th saga that triggered off the formation of a body like NADECO. If Nigerians did not know their rights, if they were not appreciative of the value of justice, equity, and fair play, they probably would have kept quiet. But people stood up against military regime, and a very, what language should I use? A one that was very will victimize people. I don't know. I don't want to say very wicked. I'm looking for a milder word to use. But we know that regime how it was. So, but for people like that to have stood against that regime, whether they were in exile, like our president, our current president, or whether they were here, some of them lost their lives. People like Rewane, Kudirat, Biola, and so on and so forth. So we have a lot of lessons to learn, that we must respect justice, we must respect equity, fair play in whatever we are doing. We should also not take Nigerians for granted. Nigerians know their rights. We could be quite resilient, but we can also stand up when the time comes and we want to face whatever problem we want to face. So, and like I said, Nigerians should know that we are all one. No matter where somebody comes from, if that person is going to deliver, let us choose that person as our savior, not to say because it's my brother or it's not my brother. It will not help us. So we need to, learn from the lesson of June 12th a lot.
All right, Doc. In terms of, we spoke about the local governments, and of course we can't deny the fact that local governments are being confronted with a lot of challenges. Even as we can see, you've highlighted a few. But it's a democracy day. We can engage you as a consultant right now to help us even talk in terms of how can we strengthen the local government systems right now, especially at the grassroots, to ensure that Nigerians at the grassroots enjoy the dividends of democracy.
Okay. That is the basic unit of governance in the country, the local government. We have 3 tiers of government. We have up to the ward level, but the councillors, they don't have much to do, at least for now. So it is at the local government level that a lot of attention should be directed at. And what we need to do, because a lot of people who by one way or the other find themselves as chairman of local government, in the true sense of it, some of them are not fit to be there. Yes, because some of them are there as, stooges of the governor of that state or certain political forces, so that they will come and serve, their own interests. But if we allow a properly conducted election and we select somebody that is credible and acceptable to the people, he will now know that it was the people that put him there, and his service will be for the people. Then again, we have to carry a lot of orientation. Like you pointed out, we need to educate our chairmen and even the councillors and supervisors. A lot of workshops and seminars should be conducted. For example, you are a councillor or you are appointed supervisor for agriculture. Some of them that are appointed or supervisors for agri might not even know anything about agri. It's just purely on political grounds. What is that person going to do to help? Well, since he has been appointed, there should be a process of educating him as far as the agri sector is concerned, the whole chain, value chain of agri, so that he can take that back to his own local government and probably to the ward. Or somebody is appointed supervisor for health, the same thing. But you now take a square peg and put in a round hole. It cannot work. So let us do the right thing, the needful, get them educated properly, tutored, for them to know their responsibility as supervisor. The chairman too should also know his own responsibility as the chairman of the local government. Some of them just believe that when their location comes, they will share and go. And I don't know whether it is possible for, like during the military era, they used to set a template. They can say, this month, all the local government will do so, outside any other thing you will do. So that there could be a body that will guide these people, so that they will know what to do. And of course, they should bring in even the paramount, the traditional rulers, so that they will know what they need in their various areas and advise them to prepare their budget, and whatever project they want to carry out, it should be based on the need of the people, not just because you want to do something that people will say it was my time, and probably I take it to my village so that my village people will say I did this for my village. For example, you see a village, they have water, maybe provided by the river basin or by NDDC or so. You are a chairman, you still go and do another water project, because you want your people to know that it was you that did that when you were the chairman. But there's another community that does not have that water, that has more need for that water. It's not, it can't happen that way. And I also sympathize with them because there's a lot of pressure. That is the most vulnerable level of governance. How many of us can walk to the president? How many of us can go to the governor? But the local government chairman, the councillors, they are the ones that the people see every day. They keep asking you for one thing or the other. I remember when I was the local government chairman, 6:30 people are there at my gate knocking. Yes.
Well,
but can you go to the governor's gate and knock? Can you go to the president's gate and knock?
Doctor, that was because probably you.
So there's so much pressure on them. So you also have to empathize with them.
Doctor, I wish we have time to even speak on the fact that most local government chairmen right now don't even stay in their local government.
Yes.
Unlike you when you were a local government.
No, I said
you were resident in
yes,
that particular local government.
Yeah.
We have a situation right now where local government chairmen are staying in capital cities.
Yes.
We had an occasion 2 weeks ago where a sitting governor had to start begging local government chairmen to start going back to their various local governments and govern from that access. Because most people right now don't even know who their local government chairman
That
are.
ordinarily would be the ideal thing to do. I agree 100%, but then, we also have to allow allowances. Some of those local governments, are not secured and they are not safe for the local government chairman. Unless the state government or the will come in and provide a place where they will say with all the security apparatus that they need for their own security. Because I know the kind of, that they'll be so vulnerable to anything. Some of them, some local government, in the interior, go to the Niger Delta side and so on, So we have to also balance this. In as much as I believe that they should be with their people, but we also have to look at their own security and safety. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Doc, as we begin to wrap up right now, when you look at the generality of our democracy, as we celebrate today as a Democracy Day, is there hope for Nigerian democracy? Do you see a future, even with the way we are going right now, as a people, as a country? Of course, people will say that a lot of people have lost hope in Nigeria. There are young people who say they want to even, this incident of Japa syndrome. But when you look at it in terms of governance, in terms of all parameters, is there hope for Nigerians?
Exactly. And that's why I love the slogan, renewed hope. Abiola, late MK Abiola came with the word hope. Because they didn't allow him to, to lead. He died in, what do you call it? The detention or whatever. Now, President Tinubu has come up with his own renewed hope. So I want us to know that there is hope for this country. If the right policies and programs are put in place, like what the president is doing now, previous presidents did not have that political will, or they didn't even know how to go about it. For example, the issue of oil subsidy. They have been toying with the idea of removing oil, but they couldn't do it because they didn't have the political will. But this man came right from day one. He did that. We are now trying to benefit. We can now start seeing the benefit of that. You can talk about the issue of the students, the NEL Fund, the Student Educational Loan Project, which is helping a lot. Unification of the foreign exchange listing, talk about the tax reforms and all this. So when you deliberately come up and you know that I want to lead a country and you have that focus, you know what you want to do. It's not just because you want to be a president, So if the person that will succeed President Tinubu after his tenure, whether it's going to be 4 years or 8 years, has that same zeal, okay, and that political will to continue in that trajectory, I can tell you that there's a lot of hope. Even the phenomenon of what you call the Jagba, you can see that it's beginning to come. It's not as it was before. From what I have gathered, at the time everybody I want to live for Canada, Australia. It's not like that again. I'm not saying some people are not still living, but it's not as intense as it used to be before, because things have started turning around. And I want to believe if we sustain the present, effort at putting all these things together, I don't think we'll have much to regret, and our hope, which was almost gone, will be rejuvenated in the next couple of years. Like I said, with the reforms put in place, the people in the informal sector, for example, now they are benefiting from the tax. They are going to benefit from the tax reforms. Students are benefiting from it. There are a lot of social, programs going on, to alleviate the problems of the common people through all these palliatives and other things going on like that. So I believe it's good. Look at the issue of even look at security. It's abetting. I'm not saying that it's gone completely, but compared to what happened in the past. So I think the current administration is really focused, and they know what they want, and I want to believe they will deliver. And if after that we have that same continuity in policies and programs, and even better ones, I can assure you that hope is not lost, and it will not be lost.
In other words, the future is bright.
Yes, the future, we should look at a brighter future.
It's bright for young people.
Exactly.
Well, Dr. Emeyak Ukpong, I want to say thank you so much for finding out time to be with us, even despite the short notice. I want to say we appreciate you for your time.
Thank you. I just came in this morning from Uyo to attend the democracy day, only for you to hijack me. But I couldn't say no, because it's an opportunity.
Because your input, of course, has been
so I just believe whatever we must have done, you people just take that for now. We'll have opportunity some other time to do better.
And I also believe that a lot of Nigerians watching you this morning, their hopes are, this evening rather, that their hopes have been renewed also.
Please, I want it to be renewed.
Well, this is how far we can go today, even on a big talk. I would have really appreciated Dr. Emeyak Ukpong, who is a Pro-Chancellor and Chairman, Governing Council, Federal University of Technology, Ikot-Abasi, Akwa Ibom State. He is a former member of the House of Representatives, former local government chairman, Ibesikwa Sultan, Akwa Ibom State, former ASU chairman, University of Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, senatorial candidate in the 2023 general elections under the platform of the All Progressive Congress. It's really a great honor to have him, despite the short notice, to be with us. We really appreciate him to come celebrate Democracy Day with us here in the studio. Well, viewers, this is how far we can run today. Do remember that you can also join the conversation on our various social media handle currently showing on your screen. Use it at Global TV NG. Also remember that you can also download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app from your Android and iOS devices to keep track of our broadcast. My name is Godwin Sunday. Always remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. From all of us here on the Big Talk crew, it's bye for now.
Happy democracy.